Shin Megami Tensei XD fanfic. Issei Hyodo has died and lost the boosted gear, but after accepting a deal from DagDa, he must now travel through an unknown land and find a way to return home while also avoiding battles with the supernatural of his own world and the new one he's a part of. Chapter 1. The Godslayer and Nahobino meeting. Chapter 1. The Fiendish Godslayer rewrite. I hope you enjoy it. Sometimes you have to confront your demons and sometimes even let them loose to find a place where you can gain some understanding genuinely. Peter Mullen. Unknown location. Our story begins with Issei's dead body shown lying on the ground in a pool of its blood. Suddenly, the body was surrounded by a crimson-red colored aura until it changed to a purple-colored one soon after. Both his clothes and body were healed and repaired as all the blood vanished. After the body recovered, his eyes opened, revealing neon green instead of his ordinarily brown eyes. Issei slowly picked himself back up, shaking his head of any dizziness. He rubbed his eyes with his left hand, which was covered in green markings. Wait. Ha! What the hell? Issei had woken up to see that he was now in a different place, unlike Kuo Town, as he saw a barren wasteland with many destroyed buildings and large stones in the sandy area. Issei grunted as he slowly got up and saw a broken mirror near him. He looked to see his new facial features to only freak out at them because of the unique appearance that he was seeing right now. He looked down to see that his left hand had green markings covering the top of his fingers and nails. At the center of his backhand is what he assumed to be a four-leaf clover. And since his sleeves were rolled up, he saw that the markings extended down his forearm and stopped halfway toward the elbow. Calm down, boy. This is just a part of our contract. Issei looked at him and asked. What? Hang on. Who are you? What are you? Issei asked as the man approached Issei's face before tapping his forehead with a finger. My name is Dagda, and as for what I am, in simple terms, a literal demon. I was the one who was sealed inside that Magatama. I was sealed there to assist the next generation. Unfortunately, there was only one of these in your world. As for our current predicament, we are in my home. The demon world. The law of this world is gone since the war that happened here many years ago left this version of Tokyo destroyed and in ruin. Dagda said as Issei felt pity for the demon before his mind registered something crucial that he said. Wait a minute. This is Tokyo. How? I remember Tokyo still standing, so how is Tokyo gone? Issei asked as he freaked out until Dagda smacked the top of his head before explaining. I said this version of Tokyo was destroyed, not your world's version of Tokyo. The demon, known as Lucifer, attacked God and his army to try and rule this world. But unfortunately, the battle ended with so much death and destruction. Humanity was gone, but the demons now wandered this world. I'm not sure how we will return to your world, but it's best we find a better place to hide. Your body still hasn't fully recovered from your death and transformation. The closest town nearby is Tamachi. You should be able to avoid trouble if you stick to the shadows. Dagda said as he left Issei alone before the demi-fiend grumbled in annoyance as he struggled to stand up before walking out from his resting place and continuing following the directions he was given from Dagda. Hey, mind if I ask you some questions, Dagda? Issei asked as he continued walking before Dagda accepted this as nodded in reply. You wanted to ask me how you're here in the demon world and your new appearance? Dagda asked. Issei was surprised he was found out until he nodded in reply as Dagda sighed in hesitation. Well, the thing is that you died. A fallen killed you in cold blood after you went on a date with her. You may not remember the event, but give it time, and your memory will return soon. The main thing is that you died from her since she was manipulating you because of a power you had within you. But now that your human side is dead, you lost that power. I was in your pocket at the time, so I was able to convert your body to become a demi-fiends. Dagda explained while Issei was shocked as he continued walking along the path until his mind began to show some images he recognized as he saw the black-haired woman. Our Rainier? She's the one who killed me, correct? Issei asked as Dagda nodded in reply. The demi-fiend continued to walk across the land before he looked up to see that the sky was covered in clouds with hints of sunlight piercing through until he saw a woman with white winds fall from the sky as she was struggling to hold off a pack of deadly mini-devils that wielded pitchforks. Ah! Leave me alone, you disgusting demons! The angel shouted as she tried to pierce them with her spear but failed until the demons began to pile on top of her and tear her clothes while a few others cackled at the angel before readying their spears. Just as one was about to touch her breasts, a rock flew through the air and hit their head. This made the demon turn around and eye Issei as he chuckled another stone at the demon's eye, which worked as it made his eye bleed in pain. While the minor imp-like demon was trying to heal its eye, the others charged at him hoping to kill Issei, making Issei freak out as he began to run from them. Oh, shit! Issei was running away from the demons as he dodged their spears before throwing some of them back to scare them away. Still, the number of demons continued to increase as Issei slowly found himself surrounded by the demons until they stabbed him after they managed to keep his armored left arm away. The one with the injured eye glared disdainfully at Issei as it was ready to kill him until a tall figure with razor-sharp claws for nails sliced him. She wore long black pants while her chest was covered in white fur, as well as her arms. Her tail was pure white as well. Her eyes were amber like a cat's, along with her long brown hair and strange mask around her mouth. The other demons were frightened by the newcomer until a blue blade sliced through them. Issei's eyes widened to see a tall blue-haired person that had a blue edge in their hand. They then turned around to see Issei's body before she looked concerned as Issei's eyes started to close. He tried to keep them open but couldn't even as the two women were calling out to him. The only comfort he had was Dagda speaking to him. "Take it easy, kid. You need to rest." Issei grumbled as he woke up to see that he was in an abandoned building until he saw the cat-like woman walk in with some bottled water before gasping lightly at Issei. "Oh. Thank goodness you are awake. I was worried you wouldn't wake up for the next hour. How are you feeling? Any better? You got hurt pretty badly by those demons, but luckily we got there in time to save you and Angel. She wanted to thank you, so she patched you up as best as she could, but before you can see her, I have to ask," the cat said as she narrowed her eyes and asked in a severe tone. "Who are you?" Issei struggled to sit up but succeeded as he spoke to the catgirl. "My name is Issei Issei. I'm a demi-fiend and the godslayer of Dagda." The cat's eyes widened as she sniffed his body before gasping lightly. "So that's why your scent was different yet similar to ours. You are a demon, and yet you are still human at the same time. Interesting. Boss would want to meet with you. For now, it's best you rest and heals," the cat said before giving Issei food before the godslayer called out to her. "Wait. How long has it been in the human world?" "My world?" Issei asked as the cat turned around and replied. "Oh? Do you still have a family? Well, it's only been about a few seconds out there. Time here is different. One day here is an hour back in the living world. I assume you do know how to return home, correct?" she asked as Issei chuckled nervously until the cat sighed at the demi-fiend before explaining. "It's rather simple. All you have to do is hold out your hand and imagine a portal appearing in front of you and give the portal coordinates to where you want it to take you. Remember that you still need to have magic and some concentration to properly use it, though I don't recommend doing it right now. You are weak and need to rest. Oh, and my name is Neko. Nekomata," Neko said as she left him alone while he ate his meal. "Has it only been a few seconds back home?" Issei pondered as he heard the door open to see the blue-haired woman again as she walked towards him steadily before stopping at his bed. "Welcome to the demon world. I am Nahobino, protector of the human world. State your name and allegiance to me before I sever your head," she said as the sword was summoned from her hand while Issei freaked out a bit. I Issei Issei. I'm a demi-fiend and Dagda's godslayer. What's your name?" Issei asked as Nahobino narrowed her eyes at him before putting her blade away as she then put a hand on his beard and felt that Issei did have a magatama within him. "Interesting. Perhaps he can help us deal with that stupid monster," she pondered until Issei spoke to her. "I'm sorry for coming here unannounced, but I didn't have a choice. You see, I was dying and your past doesn't interest me in the slightest bit. Here there's only one rule. Survive. So I will teach you so you can learn how to use your powers," she said before Issei's gauntlet appeared. Dagda looked at the Nahobino before adopting a surprised look on his face. "A Nahobino? I'm surprised there's one still around. I thought that after the war, your people were extinct," he said as Nahobino was surprised by his explanation before looking at Dagda and asking. "You seem to be more intelligent than this boy. Can you please explain to me how he can use his power?" she asked as Dagda knew it was coming and explained. "He needs magatamas to become stronger, but from what I can tell, they are no longer around, which means that he needs to consume the essences of demons not just to gain their abilities but their powers. I know I'm asking a lot from you, but help my partner. He's gone through a life-changing experience due to the fallen of his world. Dagda explained as Nahobino looked at Issei before sighing to herself. I'll help him. On one condition, he helps me with taking down the monster of Tokyo Tower. It's been rampaging for months now, and the problem is that all of the demons in the area are scared of it. It spews fire from its many heads and has venomous blood. I've been trying to kill it but have had no luck, so with you here, I may have a fighting chance. The best way to combat demons is, like Dagda said, by absorbing their essence and getting demons to join you. Help me, and I'll help you get home. Deal? The Nahobino asked as Issei looked at her hand before his mind showed Reinare's, but he shook it off until he grabbed it. I accept the terms and conditions. All I ask is that you help me out, Issei said as Nahobino nodded in reply. Of course. You already have 2 demons in your roster, so that's a good start. Issei's eyes widened. Do I? Wait, what do you mean by my roster? Nahobino looked at him and explained. Your roster is your collection of demons that join you. You already have 2 of them. Remember that angel you saved? Well, some weird gauntlet appeared on your left arm and absorbed her into it, so now she's a part of you. That demon whose eye you took out respected you despite being weak, decided to join you as well. I guess that Dagda is responsible for that, yes? Nahobino asked as Dagda nodded and explained. You see, the gauntlet allows the demons to be part of your team so you can call upon them for support, defense, or offense. Each demon has unique strengths and weaknesses, so you should be wary of them. Now for you to gain power, you have to absorb the essence of demons. Unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword since you gain power and that demon's abilities, but the problem is that you also gain their weaknesses. Issei sighed lightly before he nodded. Okay, how do I bring the angel and the demon out? Just call out their names, Dagda said as Issei summoned the gauntlet and looked at the writing before saying the name. Angel, Issei said as a tall blonde-haired woman came out, and Issei nearly had a nosebleed as he saw her body with her clothes barely covering anything. The angel smiled at Issei before introducing herself. Greetings, Issei Hyodo. I am Angel. I'm glad to work with you, and thank you for saving me. Let us purge the chaos of this world together. Angel said as Angel's appearance still caught Issei off guard, but she noticed that her blindfold was red instead while her clothes were more appropriate as they covered her bust and such while the chain was somehow attached to his left hand. Issei's mind started to drift back to Yuma before he swiftly shook his head and let out a sigh. Demon. The small demon appeared, and it seemed to have a different appearance since it had some reptilian scales and a dragon tail instead, while its injured eye was now a dragon eye. Issei was surprised by this as the demon landed on his shoulder before showing him his pitchfork. I shall stab anyone you deem an enemy. Heheha. The minor demon said as Nahobino was impressed by these changes in the demons before Nekomata approached them. Hey, boss. Is the new guy staying? If so, I think he'll be able to help us recruit some more allies. Nekomata said as she eyed the angel and was surprised by the new appearance. Wow. Nice bondage attire. You angels must love being dominated, huh? Angel looked away from Nekomata with a light blush. That's not true. Nekomata scoffed at the rebuttal as she replied. Oh really? So if that's the case, what's with the bondage outfit? Aren't you angels supposed to be pure and holy? Unless you're real perverts who love to ruffle feathers with each other in the sack. How naughty of you. Nekomata said as Angel blushed so hard that she became a tomato and went back into the gauntlet before Nekomata waltzed over to Issei and laid on his lap before teasingly licking his nose. Mind if this cute kitty joins you NYA? Issei's eyes widened as he blushed lightly. Are you asking to join my roster? Nahobino sighed heavily. Nekomata, have you forgotten that you're already a part of my roster? And it's not like I trade you with Issei Hyodo. Nekomata rolled her eyes. Then just remove me from your roster so that I can join Issei's. Nahobino was surprised by this before Nekomata pulled her aside and explained her reasons. Look, it's obvious that he's been through a lot and needs emotional help, and we both know that masochistic angel and that demon can't offer much, so let me join him, and I can make sure he doesn't get all depressive and such. Look, with him around, we'll have a good chance to kill the Hydra, and after we send him back, we'll never see him again. Problem solved. Little did Nekomata and Nahobino know that demon had been listening and narrowing his eyes. It seems I need to keep an eye on those two. I should also bring up the boss's problems with Angel. After the two returned to Issei, Nahobino let Nekomata join Issei's team while Demon kept an eye on the cat as she reappeared with a new form since her fur now had red tints at the end while her claws seemed sharper than before. Nekomata is here to serve. Treat me well, Master Nya. Nekomata said as she licked his cheek playfully before she cuddled against his body, making Issei blush at the close contact while a sure Angel was envious of the cat. Stupid vixen. I'll make sure you keep your dirty claws off, my master. Nahobino nodded before turning to Issei. Now, I'm afraid the 5 of us won't be enough to take on the Hydra. However, I know plenty of potential allies that could help us eliminate the Hydra. She pulled out a whiteboard before writing down some names. There are demons who have the potential to do significant damage to Hydra due to it being weak to ice and holy magic. I've located these demons to help us take down the Hydra, possibly. First is Asperas. She's a kind and gentle spirit while being a good member to have as support in minor ice attacks. She's a rival of the spirit of lust, Linen Sidhi. She's a deadly demon in charming her opponents and dark magic, which makes her an excellent counter to Hydra's poison. There are powerful mermaids in another group of demons that may be useful to distract the heads, but they are stubborn demons to call upon. There are a couple of Azumi that also took control of an enchanted hot spring that they cursed, which is problematic since that spring is meant to be used for all demons to heal themselves. There is a demon who can remove the curse, but we've been unable to locate her. So here's the plan. For the first 2 or 3 days, I'll help you learn how to absorb a demon's essence, and after those first 3 days, you'll be given a mission to recruit one of these demons. Any questions? Issei nodded. You claim that Asperas and Linen Sidhi are rivals. What makes you think we can get them to work together? Furthermore, who is the last demon you can't seem to find? Issei asked with a serious face but a bored look in his eyes. Nahobino sighed as she explained. While it's true that Asperas and Linen Sidhi don't get along very well, they do have one thing in common. They want what's best for demonkind. They both use their charm to seduce demons at first but help them become stronger. One thinks numbers equal strength, while the other believes power is what's most important. I believe you can get them to work together. Linen is a succubus-like demon, so she'll be more problematic than Asperas. As for the last demon, her name is Anahita. She's not exactly fond of humans or demi-fiends and hardly got along with my people. She's kind, don't get me wrong, but has trouble understanding, well, people. Issei nodded at this information before he asked. Is there a reason Anahita dislikes humans and demi-fiends? Nahobino nodded as she replied to his question. Yes, and the answer comes in one word. That being lust, specifically the lust of man. Issei gulped audibly as Nahobino patted his back. Don't worry. The last time she was mad at a human man, she turned him into a human popsicle and gave him literal blue balls. Honestly, that's her being lenient on them. Otherwise, she would have left them to drown or frozen them solid forever. Issei turned comically white while Dagda burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. Ah, man, good to hear that the goddess of fertility hasn't changed. Wait, you've met her before? Issei asked as Dagda wiped a tear from his eyes before he replied. Of course. I remember her rejecting many proposals or declarations of love from men and women who were infatuated with her. Unfortunately, they met an icy end one way or another. Ahahahaha. Dagda said before laughing his ass off while Issei was nervous about meeting her. We don't need her help, right? Issei asked hesitantly as Nahobino looked at him with the same blank look before nodding. Nope. You'll get her if you can get the other 2 demons to work with us. Issei sighed heavily in relief while Nekomata giggled and patted his head. It's okay, Issei. We know you're hardly prepared to face a goddess. Let's focus on getting Asperas and Linen Sidhi to help us and potentially have them join your roster. Agreed. For now, I think Issei should go up against lower-level demons to get a feel and absorb their essence to gain power. I detected many oozes and praetas nearby. I also sent some pixie to join you, but be wary of them since pixie are mischievous brats. Dagda said as Issei considered this before looking at Nahobino before she sighed. Okay, but I'll be watching you. I won't step in unless your life is in danger. Is that okay with you, Dagda? Issei? Issei nodded while Dagda scoffed. Yeah, sure. But let me get something straight with you. Nahobino, my partner, will be perfectly fine. He's got Angel, Demon, and Nekomata to help him out. By the time we're ready for the Hydra, Issei won't even need your assistance." Nahobino could tell that Dagda was worried for Issei but had confidence in him to rise to the occasion. "We shall see. For now, it's nighttime. Best we get some sleep. I'll take first watch," Nahobino said as she went to stand guard before looking back at Issei. "I'll wake you up for when it's your turn. Good night, for now, Issei Hyodo," she said before leaving him as Issei looked concerned for his well-being. "This'll be interesting for the next few days until Dagda patted his head. Rest for now, Issei. I'll be here to make sure you are protected and safe," Dagda said as Issei thanked him before he fell asleep in Nekomata's lap, as she gently caressed his cheek with the non-sharp end before patting his head. It's hard to imagine that he's a demon. He looks so calm and defenseless, like a newborn child. Why would anyone want to kill someone who hasn't even heard of the supernatural? It doesn't make any sense. Angel suddenly appeared with a light scowl. "Well, from what Dagda has mentioned, the young man was killed by a fallen." Nekomata was surprised by this new information as Nahobino looked at the Tokyo Tower before seeing Dagda appear next to her. "I know why you are here. Then I don't have to threaten you to keep him safe," Dagda said as Nahobino turned around and nodded his way before Dagda decided to explain Issei's predicament and what happened to him back in the human world. Nahobino listened carefully as she absorbed the information as a sponge did to water until she nodded at the end of the story. "The supernatural world has become even more pathetic since the last time I saw them. And my partner asked me why I preferred this world to the other one. Here we can, at the very least, negotiate with them, but those idiots back up here are even more ridiculous than I thought. I'll protect him, Dagda. This I swear on my life and title Nahobino," she said as Dagda thanked her before leaving her alone, which was the first day that the contract between a godslayer and the last of the Nahobinos was born. Meanwhile, sitting on a throne, a familiar demon smirked at this as he felt a unique presence in the demon world. "Ah. So a new friend has come into my world. Let's see how this one will fare against Hydra," the demon said as he sipped his wine before smiling at the idea of the new demon being strong. "If so, then perhaps I'll have someone try to challenge me for the throne. Ahahaha. I look forward to seeing your new demon. Ahahaha." The next day Issei was fighting some slimes who merely grumbled as they were reduced to essence until his Magatama activated and absorbed it. Issei sighed heavily as he wiped the sweat from his brow. "I get that I was weak in the real world, but fucking hell, these slime wannabes are exhausting." Dagda chuckled as he patted Issei on the shoulder. "Don't worry, kid, you'll get used to it." Issei nodded in reply as he fought some more oozes with his new physical attacks, which helped take them down a lot easier until he caught the eye of a Preda team of 10 as Issei was annoyed by those guys. "Those guys are like hyenas," Issei said as he charged at the small group of Predas before throwing a few Agi rocks that he found earlier after dealing with the slimes. The Predas screamed in pain as they died until Issei absorbed their essence. Issei saw a strange slime following him until Dagda laughed at his partner. "I think this ooze wants to accompany you. The oozes are unstable demons and don't recall their true form or self, but with magic poured into them, it should help the ooze recall its true form. Why not add it to your team? Plus, it seems to act smarter than the others you fought." The ooze grumbled a response as it was absorbed into the gauntlet until Dagda looked at the slime and nodded. "Yep. This one seems to be different from the others. It's smarter, which means it's probably a high demon unsuccessfully summoned by an amateur magician. It'll take a lot of magic to help this one regain its true self. Nice job on killing those annoyances," Dagda said as Issei thanked his partner for his words of encouragement until he sensed a strange presence near the city's edge. "Hey, Dagda. Do you feel something? Like something is waiting for us?" Issei asked as Dagda sensed the odd presence before his eyes widened. "Oh. Those things are here. Issei. That odd energy you feel is in Mita. It's the work of a chaos staff. A weapon that fuses demons into a terrifying beast that only obeys their master. Best we avoid them until you're stronger." Issei merely nodded and turned away from the city, only for him to stop upon seeing a small woman with wings in front of his face. "Hi. Who are you? Are you the one that's been killing the low-level demons in this area?" the small woman asked as Issei took in that she had a long orange hair blue outfit that covered her chest and stomach, along with her legs and arms, but revealed her ass and let her wings be free. "Oh, right. My name is Pixie. Pleased to make your acquaintance," she said as Issei held out a finger for the small woman to shake as he introduced himself. "My name is Issei Issei. Mind if I ask about that thing in the next city?" Issei asked as Pixie was pale before she brought him away from that area and whispered to him. "That's a monster that was made from a bunch of demons. It's insanely powerful, and it even taken some of my friends. My leader says it's a demon known as Endura. It's when multiple demons are mixed into a dangerous being. It was there just last week and blocked the way to the next city before you could reach the Tokyo Tower," Pixie said as she looked back at Issei and realized she'd been rambling. "Sorry. I've been trying to learn how to kill that thing, but I don't know how since there aren't many strong demons here." Issei looked at Pixie for a few moments before he held out his gauntlet to the side. Angel, Demon, Nekomata, Slime. He summoned the 4 demons, and to Pixie's surprise, Issei didn't try to fight her as he asked her a simple question. "Is there a way we can meet? Hi Pixie? I can probably help with this monster problem, but I need help with my ooze. Can you return it to its original form?" Pixie fluttered over to ooze and looked over it before nodding. "I think we can help, although Hi Pixie may have to call Titania for assistance. Returning an ooze to its original form isn't exactly an easy task." Issei thanked her as Pixie led him to a cave where a large group of pixies was flying around while a few Hi Pixies spoke to a tall blonde-haired woman with fairy wings on her back. She was wearing a green dress with gold lines around it. Pixie flew over to her and whispered into her ear until the woman looked at Issei and gestured for him to approach her throne before the woman introduced herself. "I am the leader of the pixies in this area. I am Titania, leader of the pixies. She's telling me you are trying to help an ooze regain its identity and true form." Titania asked as Issei nodded and introduced the slime to her. Titania looked down at the slime-like creature and looked within its soul. "It's a strong soul. A mighty demon. Such a shame this is what happened to it. To return an ooze to its true form requires massive magic to return its original form, but its intelligence is a problem. If it goes wrong, then it'll regain its form, but it'll end up being a failure mentally. Are you sure you want to risk it?" Titania asked as she wanted to see what kind of person this boy was since she's never encountered a person like this before. Issei looked over to his ooze before kneeling down to its level, a solemn look on his face. "You heard what she said, right? This decision is not up to me. This is up to you. Do you want to return to normal, even knowing the risk of an error occurring?" The ooze looked at Issei for a moment before it nodded its squishy head. Issei looked at Titania before he replied. "Well, you heard him. In return, I want to know about this demon blocking the city's exit. I'm trying to recruit demons to take down the Hydra. We could also use your help if you are interested, Lady Titania," Issei said as Titania pondered this proposal before looking at Issei and replying. "I will need time to consider this proposal. I shall help your ooze and, in return, give you information on what we know about this demon." Issei nodded. "Thank you. I promise that I shall take this demon out once you've given me this information. This I vow," Issei said seriously, but he also sounded bored. Titania looked carefully at Issei after listening to his bored-sounding vow until her eyes widened. Those eyes and those markings. This boy. He's a demi-fiend." Titania looked at the pixie that brought him here before whispering something into her ear until the small girl nodded and flew over to Issei's side. "She knows who you are. You are not the first demi-fiend to be created. We thought there wouldn't be one long after the war and the Nahobino clan were wiped out. Anyway, she understands you are grateful but was caught off guard by your appearance," Pixie said as ooze slithered its way forward. Titania placed a hand on it before sending magic into the slime. The soul within it resonated with the magic as it slowly began to tear itself apart and retake a new shape and form. It began to resemble a human-like girl with blonde hair and yellow eyes until a blue dress and a white bow appeared on her being. Issei and the other demons were shocked by this change of the weak ooze into a girl-like human until the human turned around and looked at Issei confused before asking but one problem. "You? Who are you?" the girl asked as Pixie explained the situation. "She's regained her true self, and so the memories from her ooze form are a bit messed up. So she'll need some time to try and recollect herself until she recalls everything," Pixie explained as Issei looked at how the girl was dressed until his eyes widened as a sudden realization hit him. Seriously? Alice from Alice in Wonderland exists, as well? The named Alice looked at Issei surprised before gasping at him. Big brother. She yelled as she hugged Issei before cuddling his chest. Angel and Nekomata were surprised by how she addressed Issei. At the same time, Demon and Dagda were amused by this predicament until Titania giggled at the girl before sitting back on her throne. Now that she's back to normal, I'll explain what that thing is. It's known as an Endura. A chaos staff created it. These staffs are magical weapons that were used to create mighty demons who were known for their power. But the problem is that the demons that are fused to make the Endura are a part of it, which means that it's a permanent transformation. We thought that the chaos staffs were destroyed because Lucifer was disgusted by them, but it appears that one remained. It's not a creature that must be underestimated. It's just as dangerous as the Hydra but not as strong. Pixies were used as the main demon, so it's weak to darkness. Alice is a dark demon, so she should be able to help you deal with the Endura. Issei merely nodded before he looked down at Alice, making her look up at him. This little cutie is a dark demon? Alice looked up at Issei and smiled innocently before asking him with a dark tone. Do you want to feel me? If you do, then I'll kill you. Issei's eyes widened with an extremely red face. What did you just say? She did not imply what I think she was implying. Alice giggled at his expression before patting his face. Don't worry, big brother. I won't kill you. I only kill those who want to harm big brother. She said innocently before her face became dark and malicious as she asked a question in an innocent tone. So, who do you want me to kill, big brother? Issei was still surprised by what Alice had said before until he managed to calm himself down. An Endura is attacking a part of the city I was training at. Do you think you can help me eliminate it, Alice-chan? Alice smiled innocently as she nodded before skipping out of the cave and heading to where the Endura was. Less than 5 minutes later, screams of bloody murder filled the air as a little girl was happily killing and crushing the Endura for her big brother. Oh, where are you going, Endura? Don't you want to play with me some more? Issei heard all this while Dagda whistled at the carnage next to Issei. I almost forgot how scary Alice was. Isn't she the best sister a guy can ask for? Issei could only do the one thing that seemed wise in this situation and immediately fainted. Huh. You'd think he'd be used to blood by now. Oh well. Thank you, Titania. My partner would appreciate it if you joined our cause to fight against the Hydra. We want to free the demons from the Hydra's reign, so won't you fight with us? Dagda asked as Titania looked at Issei and her pixie clan before sighing. May I have some time to think about this? It's a lot to take in since. I understand, Titania. I know you'll make the right decision, Dagda said as Alice came back with blood on her face. Demon and Angel returned to the gauntlet with Dagda while Nekomata, who was carrying Issei, and Alice headed back to base. Pixie looked at the group leave before looking at Titania. Lady Titania. I want to join Issei Hayaduu's team. Titania was stunned by what Pixie had just requested. You wish to join the Demi-Fiend? Are you certain? You don't have to join the young man right away. Pixie looked determined and nodded. Yes. I know Issei is a Demi-Fiend, and while he has other demons, I can tell he needs support and healing. Plus, I can't tell her I want to ride his weapon while licking his essence. Pixie said, except for the last part in her mind, as Titania looked at Pixie before sighing. Okay. You may join him. I'll send a message back to him about my decision by tomorrow. Now go, Pixie. I wish you all the luck I have that you may love and live by his side. Titania said as Pixie smiled and thanked her before Pixie flew away to join Issei. At the base, Issei slowly began to wake up before he opened his eyes, seeing that Alice, Nekomata, and Nahobino were looking down at him. Are you okay, big brother? Do you need a hug to help you? Alice said with a smile while Nekomata kept the small girl away from him. That's enough out of you, Alice. It best you leave your big brother be for now. Nahobino needs to chat with him for a bit. Nekomata said that Nahobino was holding some staff, but the staff heads were deformed until she looked at him and spoke. So these are back, huh? I didn't expect to see an Endura for a long time since the war. I lost many friends and comrades due to them, but now that the Endura is gone, we can continue towards the next city, Shiba, before reaching Hamamatsucho and Shiba Park. That's where we'll be able to find the demons we spoke about last night. You've done well, so rest up. Nahobino said before getting you to leave him alone until she felt a hand grab her arm. "See, can you please stay? For just a little while until I fall asleep?" Issei asked in a frightened tone until Nahobino nodded and patted his head. There. Nahobino was somewhat surprised to see Issei so scared, even though he had seemed so confident earlier. You cannot blame the young man for his fear. You were the same way when we first met and when you first turned into a Nahobino. A voice behind Nahobino suddenly spoke. She looked to see her old mentor speak to her until he put a hand on her shoulder and said, "Be there for him. Comfort him when he's scared or sad. Get to know the boy. He reminded me of you when you were in the same state he was in. I know. Deep down, you are still alive, Nahobino. Let him in and talk to him," the man said as Nahobino sat next to Issei in his bed and put his head on her lap before patting his head. "Is this satisfactory? I remember receiving this treatment when I was emotionally exhausted. Rest up and take it easy. I'll be here when you wake up," Nahobino said as she heard Issei's soft snores until Pixie flew down and saw the duo before smirking at her. "Oh, ho. It looks like someone else wants to see his sword. And I don't mean the weapon itself." Nahobino deadpanned at Pixie. "Oh, it's you again, that perverted Pixie I first met. Let me guess. You've decided to join Issei Hyodo?" Pixie smiled and nodded. "Of course. I'd like to." "No, now buzz off, perverted bug." Nahobino interrupted as she made a shoo-shoo motion to get the perverted bug to leave Issei alone so he could rest. Pixie gained a comical tick mark at the nickname before barking back at her. "Like I need your permission, heartless Nahobino." Nahobino flicked the tiny Pixie on the forehead as she yelled while falling out of the room. The woman smiled in relief as she ran a hand through his hair. "Rest easy now, Issei. You've done well for your first training day, so be prepared for the fun stuff tomorrow," Nahobino said as she smiled at the idea of training him. The next day, Issei skidded back before falling onto his ass and coughed loudly. Cough. Holy fuck. That kick was too much, and Nahobino. Cough cough. "Really? I was stretching my legs. Also, I can tell you are good at running and dodging, but fighting is what you don't specialize in. Attack me again," Nahobino said as she was training Issei in the art of combat before he could proceed into Shiba City. "There will be more dangerous demons there, so be prepared for anything and try to catch them off guard," Nahobino said as her eyes gleamed. "And most importantly, remember that you have allies to help you. Would you like to meet mine?" Nahobino tapped her right arm and summoned 4 deadly demons that felt stronger than his own. "These are my demons. Lamia, who's excellent in the offense. Uriel, who's excellent in defense and support. Yaxini is offensive and speedy. And finally, Mononongal. She's the wildcard of my team." Issei's eyes widened while his jaw comically dropped to the floor, while Dagda appeared behind him and let out an impressed whistle. "Wow! Uriel of the Seraphs, and one of the many seductive monsters of Greek mythology. You know, it's rumored that Lamias are ancestors of Medusa since Echidna, the mother of all monsters, created them. I should see how she's doing one of these days." Yaxini looked at Issei and sniffed him before shaking her head and pulling out her blades. "Demi-fiend. You do not smell like a warrior. I shall train you to be a fighter, and if you die, then so be it. Hiya!" She yelled as she tried to slice Issei. Still, he managed to dodge the attack, which was fortunate for him as Yaxini proceeded to attack him until Mononongal stopped Yaxini from skewering Issei before patting him on the head. "Apologies for Yaxini. She's a warrior at heart, but we're here to assist you in training you in your abilities. The problem is that even though you've absorbed the essence of other demons, you still don't know how to use magic. Have you tried using magic until now?" the demon asked as Issei shook his head before Dagda appeared and explained that Issei's soul was now compatible with magic in the demon world. If he still had that sacred gear of his, he wouldn't have been compatible with the demon world's magic, but now that it's gone and he's now a pure demi-fiend, he can now use the magic of our world. His magic compatibility is based on his personality. Strangely enough, he can use 3 different types of magic: fire, dark, and force, which means his main weaknesses are lightning, ice, and holy magic. It'll be problematic when he faces a holy opponent, but if he absorbs the essence of demons that are compatible with those elements, then he can gain a strong resistance to it. Try using Agi. It's a weak fire spell that should be able to use. as Issei pictured himself using the spell before it appeared in his mind. He lifted his left hand and made a finger pistol before he shouted, "Agi!" Issei said as the fireball shot out of his fingers. The fireball flew towards Yaxini, but the demon reflected it as she smirked at him. "Not bad. Some more training and I think you can use more powerful magic. As you get stronger, low-level demons won't be able to help you get stronger, which means you'll then have to hunt for bigger game," Dagda said as Issei nodded in reply before getting back into the fight as he now had a way to clash with Yaxini. "Let's do this, Yaxini!" Issei shouted as the demon admired his spirit before charging at him. Nahobino smiled as she looked at Issei before whispering to herself. "This might work out after all," Nahobino said as she sat on a boulder watching Issei and was curious how much stronger he would become. Scene. Now Issei won't have the boosted gear and is now a pure demi-fiend. Issei's magic and form represent his personality and Dagda's abilities. Nahobino, the MC of the game, will be Issei's partner in crime and assist him in learning how to embrace his new powers and such. Lust equals dark determination equals fire temper equals force. Issei will have mostly female demons but other types to assist him, like bicorn and such. Prepare for next time. The spirits of love and lust. Let me know if you like the rewrite or not. Ta-ta. Ch1 of 7 next, Chapter 2. Spirits of Love and Lust. Chapter 2 2 days later. Again. Nahobino ordered as Issei practiced magic since he was trying to learn how to use it in battle. "Agi!" Issei shouted as he fired a simple fire spell to burn the target that Nahobino set up before he dodged a swing of Yaxini's swords. Issei then held out his left hand and whispered, "Mudo," Issei said as he fired the dark spell at the demon, who could push through it, which bought Issei enough time to equip Demon's Pitchfork thanks to a trick he was able to pick up from Dagda. "I don't have a weapon, but I have the essence of demons from the last 2 days inside of me, so I have to use their best traits to assist me." Issei recalled Dagda's words as he clashed with Yaxini, who was smiling at the progress that the demi-fiend was making until Issei could disarm her and point the weapon at her throat, which made Yaxini grin widely at her student. "Well done. You've improved after taking care of that abscess that appeared yesterday on your own," Yaxini commented as Issei nodded and recalled the massive flower that was absorbing Magatama from the area around it and made other demons protect it. Issei was worried about facing the demons until he realized that he could use this to his advantage, so Issei told Nahobino that he would take care of it. Thanks to his training with Uriel on defense and support, as well as Lamia's assistance in fighting with the demon weapon, he could get better at clashing with Yaxini, who helped his reflexes and his to read the opponent's movements. Issei and his demons were able to defeat the monsters protecting the abscess, which allowed him to gain a bit more resistance to lightning due to Mandrake's essence he absorbed. Dagda and Nahobino were proud of how strong Issei quickly became, which is why Nahobino suggested that today was the day. "Issei, you've gotten a much better skill set of attacks and helped your demons grow stronger with their new abilities, which is why I believe it's time that you head to Shiba and begin recruiting the demons we talked about 2 days ago. I'm not going with you since I want you to learn how to negotiate on your own and show me if you're really up to it," Nahobino said as she then gave him an awkward hug before ruffling his hair. "You've done so well in the past 3 days, and I know you are still hurt by what that woman did to you, but she's not here, and you are still alive. Issei Hyodo. You are strong. Stronger than that, Fallen who manipulated you. She called you weak and pathetic, so picture that woman under your foot when you prove her wrong. Use that as motivation," Nahobino said as Issei smiled back as thanks for her words. Dagda grinned back at Issei as he was glad that Nahobino was opening up a bit to Issei and helping him with his emotional distress. Issei thanked the other demons for help until Dagda floated towards him and held out a book for him. "This is a menorah. It was one of the 12 that granted the demi-fiend before you incredible power to overthrow the other 10. Still, before he could obtain the final one from Lucifer, he was defeated by the Menorah of Sovereignty, which was to grant Lucifer the power to destroy the demi-fiend's body and soul. However, I was able to save his menorah until the next demi-fiend would come, and now that you are the new demi-fiend, the menorah of knowledge of yours." Dagda said that as Issei took the menorah, he felt a strange power flow into him, making his tattoos glow for a short while until they faded. But the next thing Issei was not expecting was to be taken to some throne where he was face to face with a massive demon that had dark blue skin, 6 wings that were red as blood, a large set of horns on its head, golden hair, and crimson red eyes. The demon looked down at Issei and shrunk to his size, but Issei could still feel the power radiating off of the demon before him. "So you are the new one, correct?" the demon asked, but Issei couldn't speak as the fear of the demon paralyzed his body before him until a hand was waved in front of Issei's face. The demi-fiend felt the aura lifted off of him, allowing him to speak and move as Issei nodded in reply to the demon before his presence. "Why yes. My name is Issei. Issei Hyodo. And you are?" Issei asked as the demon blinked for a few seconds before it bellowed out a big laugh as if it heard a joke that was very amusing to the demon, which scared Issei a lot until the laughing stopped as the demon wiped a tear from its eye before looking at Issei. "I shouldn't be surprised since you haven't seen my real self, but allow me to introduce myself to you. I've been called many names, and each one suits my actions and who I am," the demon said as he began to list a few names. "Lord of the Demons. The Fallen Star from Heaven. The One who brings light, the Lord of Chaos, Satan. But the name that I was given to by my father stayed true to his very day," the demon said as he began to sit back on his throne before speaking his valid name. "My true name is Lucifer, and I have come to warn you, Issei Hyodo, of the trouble you are in right now," Lucifer said as some magic lifted Issei before being brought towards the demon until Lucifer spoke to him. "Now that you have accepted the menorah of knowledge, know that my generals shall hunt you down and claim the menorah for me, but I will offer you a chance to join my army. Assist me in leaving this world, and we'll make your world a place where demons may run around and be free while the humans are our servants. Doesn't that sound grand?" Lucifer asked as Issei grunted before he managed to slap the hand that was holding him up away before he continued to fall into an abyss. "So be it. I was willing to give you a chance to become much more, but I suppose I'll have to take it from you by force. Well, this way makes it more fun for me," Lucifer said as he sent Issei back to where he was before waving a hand to see his pet at Tokyo Tower. "Let's see what this boy is truly capable of defeating my pet. If he's victorious, then perhaps I'll have to test his skills against a real fiend," Lucifer said as he began to chuckle at the idea of the new demi-fiend defeating one of his generals. "I hope you can entertain me, Issei Hyodo. I look forward to seeing what you are capable of and if you can do what the previous demi-fiend was unable to do," Lucifer said as he smiled wickedly, patiently waiting for the show to start. Issei gasped as he was awake and on the ground before seeing Nahobino and Dagda above him. "What happened to you, Issei?" Nahobino asked as Issei coughed before Dagda helped him up. "It's Lucifer. He knows I have the menorah and offered me to join him, but when I refused the invitation, he said he would send someone after me," Issei shouted in fear until Angel hugged him softly and gently. "Issei. We will face him together. You are not alone, so don't try to do it alone," Angel said as Issei breathed easier now that he knew where he was and was safe. Issei slowly stood up and thanked Angel again for comforting him until Nahobino gave Issei some supplies for his journey before nodding. "Stay safe, and do not forget that you aren't fighting alone here, isn't this world? You have your demons to watch out for you," Nahobino said as Angel nodded in reply to support her claim until Issei shook and thanked the two again. "While I'm gone, what will you do?" Issei asked before Nahobino explained what she'd be doing. "While you're gone, I plan on speaking to Titania and her army if they will help us along with that group of demons I told you about, if they would be willing to assist us in dealing with Hydra. With the skills you have now, you should be more than prepared to face off against the 2 spirits you should recruit, but even after you recruit them, I want you to continue forward and grow stronger as you clash with other demons and help some others as well. Do not think that you're ready for the Hydra just yet. You still have a lot of training to do and I can only do so much for you, so now it's time for you to make mistakes and grow as you travel to the other cities. Can you do that, Issei?" Nahobino asked as Issei clenched his left hand, knowing that she was right before he looked at her eyes with some tears in them before he hugged her, surprising Nahobino. "I promise to make you proud, Nahobino. You and Dagda, as well as my teammates," Issei said as Nahobino was impressed by his resolve before lightly patting his back. "Good. Now go. You're burning daylight, and there's a lot to do until we face the Hydra," Nahobino said as Issei nodded and began to head out with Angel behind him. Dagda looked at her and nodded. "Don't worry. I'll make sure he's safe and that he doesn't get into too much trouble," Dagda said as he was about to leave before Nahobino stopped him. "You knew full well that Lucifer would be after him as soon as Issei accepted the menorah, didn't you?" Nahobino asked with anger as Dagda looked away from her but nodded. "It's because the only way for Issei to grow is through absorbing the essence of demons. But even doing that won't be enough to face Lucifer. Which is why defeating Lucifer's generals will help Issei face him when he's gathered all 11 of them," Dagda said as Nahobino saw him leave before feeling worried since she knew of how powerful the generals of Lucifer were when they were slaughtering the angels and the Nahobino clan back in the days of the war. "Be safe, Issei. I do hope you don't lose yourself and become like me. A machine that only knows how to kill and lose everything you love," Nahobino said as she began her negotiations with the demons to assist them in the future battle with Hydra. According to Dagda, Issei sliced another slime and absorbed its essence as he continued heading toward the Meta leyline fount, which would be helpful later. He was in awe of the pure magatama swirling in the leyline fount before he stepped into it. Issei's body was covered in the magatama energy as his wounds healed, and his body felt refreshed as if he had taken a long nap and had a lovely meal. "Whoa," Issei whispered in awe of the leyline's power until Dagda spoke to him. "These leylines are meant to help you travel between the world's cities and locate certain demons or areas you want to explore. They can also heal your body when trying to recover from a difficult enemy, so be sure to use them wisely," Dagda said as Issei nodded before he scaled up a cliff that led to Hamatsucho, the city close to Shiba Park. Issei then looked around to see the usual demons come and go. But the number of slimes made Issei feel sorry for them since he couldn't imagine what Alice went through when she was a slime and barely had any recollection of her true self. "Damn. These guys are lost and don't know who they are or what they are. I can't imagine what it's like to lose your own identity," Issei said as he felt Dagda pat the boy's back inside. "I know the feeling. I recall the many demons I met that were reduced to this state, which wasn't pretty. I tried to help many of them, but as Titania said before when she saved Alice, they may regain their body, but there is times that they will not be able to think properly." As Issei clenched his fists, Dagda said he felt such sadness for the demons living in the shadows and was scared of the Hydra at Tokyo Tower. "I want to help these demons. I do, but how do I do it? How can I defeat a literal monster that was a legend in Greek mythology?" Issei asked himself as he doubted his abilities. Granted, he was confident to face minor demons, but demons like Hydra were a completely different story. "Continue to get stronger and recruit demons to join us. You aren't alone in this world, Issei. You have me, Nahobino, your demons, and the future ones you recruit to your roster," Dagda said as Issei felt glad to have a partner like Dagda, even if Demi-Fiend couldn't express it. Issei then continued to walk through the city and was able to kill some time by clashing with many demons such as a demon version of Puss in Boots known as a Kate Sith, some Onmoraki which made Issei think he was killing some fire-breathing onions, a few mandrake that was entertaining for his demon, Kodama spirits who helped assist Issei with his target practice, Sandman were mischievous pickpockets who tried to rob Issei until he dealt with them. Eventually, when he made it to Shiba, Issei wasn't sure where he'd find Asparas until Issei came upon an Agathian that he helped with a small side quest due to a few demons who picked on his kind and took shards from their pots. "I thank you for helping me deal with those bullies. If there is anything I can do for you, then don't hesitate to ask," the Agathian said as Issei saw an opportunity for him to gain some information. "If you want to repay the favor, I need information about two spirits. Do you know some demons that go by Asparas and Lean and Sidhi? I'm trying to recruit the two so my friends and I can take down the Hydra and free the cities from its reign," Issei asked as the Agathian pondered for a few minutes before nodding. "Oh yes. I just remembered that a couple of my friends actually work with Asparas as her followers and assist her since she wishes to help weaker demons by giving them knowledge and a means of survival in this world," the Agathian said as Issei thanked before asking about the other spirit. "And Lean and Sidhi? What are her motives and such?" Issei asked as the Agathian replied and said all he knew about the other spirit. "I don't know much about her, I'm afraid. All I know is that she believes that those with incredible talent and strength should be given a chance to fight and defend themselves. She believes in power rather than number, unlike Asparas," the demon said as Issei nodded as he thanked the Agathian for the intel. "Thank you. But before you go, can you, by any chance, take me to Asparas? I wish to speak to her before heading to see Lean and Sidhi." Issei asked as the Agathians smiled and nodded before leading Issei to a cave hidden behind some of the old ruined buildings in the city. Issei thanked the demon before it gave Issei a few items that might be useful for his journey and then left the cave. Alright. Let's see who this Asparas is. Issei said to himself as he walked into the cave to see a bunch of demons that ranged from Praetas, a few slimes, some Kodama, and a couple of Kate Siths that stood as bodyguards around the small pillar that who he assumed was Asparas. Halt! Why are you here, stranger? One of the Kate Siths asked Issei before Asparas floated down towards Issei and held up a hand. Stop! The other demons were quiet as Asparas held out her hand, which was already outstretched toward Issei. I am Asparas, protector of these demons. May I ask who you are, stranger? Asparas asked as Issei nodded and introduced himself after bowing to her. Issei. Issei Hyodo. I am a demi-fiend that has been searching for you. The reason for my visit here is because of Tokyo Tower. May we chat for a bit? Issei asked as Asparas nodded and told the guards to let him pass. They did so, but Issei could see that they didn't want the demon to be harmed, so Issei reassured them that he meant no harm to her. Asparas then took Issei to a small lake in the far back of the cave with a small statue resembling a human. Many flowers surrounded the sculpture as the water demon tended to the plants before she looked at the figure fondly and bowed her head in respect to the person. Issei could tell that Asparas knew the person, so he asked, "Did you know this person?" Asparas sighed in reply before nodding her head. Yes, she was my partner. My friend was part of the Nahobino. However, she wasn't a fighter. She was a protector and a healer. Asparas said as she recalled an extraordinary girl who held a place within her heart before continuing to explain to Issei. Her name was Rin. She gave herself that name since that was the only name she could recall from her childhood. I was her only demon partner, but she didn't care about fighting. She wanted to protect and save many lives with her power as well as mine own. Asparas then continued to talk as tears began to form in her eyes. As she wanted to give the weak demons and children a chance to grow and become stronger together. As a family. In the Nahobino clan, they only had each other and the demons they befriended. However, when the war happened, I was too weak to save the sister I loved with all of my heart. Asparas said as she recalled that day. Flashback. No. You're not dying her, Rin. You can't. We're going to live. You hear me? You're going to be okay. Asparas shouted as she tried to use all of her magic to heal Rin, but no matter how much she used, the wound wouldn't close, and the corruption continued to spread throughout her body. Asparas kept trying to ensure that Rin was still awake before placing a pale hand on her head. It's too late already, Asparas. Rin said as the water spirit refused to stop trying until Rin stopped her. Please, Asparas. Don't forget what we've always wanted to do. Save the weak and help them become stronger. I knew that as a member of the Nahobino clan, that I would die in battle one day, so being here alongside my brothers and sisters is an honor. Rin said as she smiled before Asparas kissed Rin's lips and tried to put her healing magic through that way, but deep within her heart, she knew that she was only delaying the inevitable. Asparas. Promise me that you'll continue to heal and protect others who can't help themselves. Rin said as Asparas cried as she smiled with all her might and nodded. I promise. I promise to continue our dream. Asparas said as she saw Rin's eyes close one last time before the water spirit cried as she let the world know that she had lost the only family she knew. All while being surrounded by destruction and death. A devastating result of the war that led to the destruction of the Nahobino clan. End flashback. After that day, I swore to keep her dream alive, and I've done it. I've brought many weak demons here and offer them sanctuary, knowledge, and power in numbers. Rin wasn't a fighter like the others, but she didn't care since she wanted to prove that she could still be a Nahobino by saving lives and helping others rather than taking them. That's why I hate demons like that, Lean and Sidhi. She uses her charm and doesn't give a care about the demons. She only sees power in each one that come to her. She weeds out the weak but keeps the strong, and what do the strong get? Power in exchange for their life source, Asparas said as she looked at Issei, who felt sorry for the spirit but couldn't show it. However, it seemed that Asparas knew as she floated towards Issei and hugged him. I am sorry for what happened to you, Issei Hyodo. Losing your humanity and becoming a demi-fiend is not something I would wish upon other humans. Asparas said as she wiped the tears from memory and asked. So what brought you here? To recruit you. My friends and I are going to take on Hydra and free Tokyo Tower, the demons, and the cities from its reign, but my demons and I need help. So will you help us Asparas? Issei asked as Asparas looked at Issei as if he was insane for thinking of challenging the Hydra until Issei stopped her from replying. You don't have to answer me now, but know that I'll be in Shiba Park and will be looking for others to join me. I know you want to protect and save lives, but you know you can't protect them here in this cave forever. Sooner or later, the Hydra will kill them all, so I was hoping you could help me. Help me, and I'll help you protect these demons. Issei said, much to Apsaras' surprise, as Issei thanked the spirit for her time until he left the cave. Dagda appeared behind him and asked, you really think she'll join us? Even after hearing about her past? Issei looked back at the cave and sighed before continuing his walk. We'll see, but deep down, she knows she can't protect them forever. Let's go to Shiba Park and recruit some other demons. Issei said as he headed to the park while Asparas watched his back leave Shiba before she hit her thumbnail. What would you do, Rin? Asparas asked herself as she began to think over Issei's offer and what he said to her before looking at the other demons and was thankful for them. But should I help him? What if I die? Or worse, they die? I wish you were here, Rin. I need your help to come to a decision, Asparas said to herself. Issei continued to walk towards Shiba Park to search for Linen Sidhi until Issei felt a presence nearby. Issei readied his sword as he prepared himself for any attackers. Come out and show yourself. I know you've been following me for a while now. Why don't you introduce yourself before we fight? Issei called out until he heard only silence. Issei walked forward to where he hoped to find Linen Sidhi until Dagda screamed at him. Behind you. Dagda screamed in his partner's mind as Issei reacted quickly by blocking the strike from the hammer. Not bad. Your reflexes are good, the demon said as the two separated from each other while Issei checked out his opponent. The demon was a tall man with an iron-like head welded by copper steel, with only one eye coming out of his mask. His attire was similar to that of a blacksmith due to the gloves and apron the demon was wearing, but he was surprised to see that he could balance his body on one foot alone. The crater underneath the body told Issei that he should underestimate this one. You're strong. Just like the rumors about you, Issei Hyajua. The demon said as Issei was surprised by the guy using his name and not calling him demi-fiend. You know who I am? How? I've only been here for about 4 days. That's simple. My mistress had heard rumors about a strange demon who was working with the Nahobino, so she sent me to see what kind of demon you were, and sure enough, I was right. A demi-fiend has been born and joined with the Nahobino, and Lady Sidhi is well aware of why you seek her out. If that's the case, why don't you take me to her? I'm sure she'd be willing to help, Issei said before being forced to dodge a swing from the massive hammer that made a giant crater where he used to be. What the hell? What was that for? I already know why you seek her out, but personally, you aren't worthy of being in her presence, much less asking my lady for her help when you're weak even after your training. So I'll make a deal with you. If you beat me, then I'll take you to her, the demon said as Issei got up and readied himself. And if I lose? Then you'll leave and never return. Alright then, but can I have your name first? Issei asked as the demon chuckled a bit before nodding. I have no name, so call me by my species. Ippon Dadara. Ippon said as he charged with a mighty leap that left a crater behind. He swung his hammer and slammed it against Issei's weapon as he was then pushed back by force itself. Damn. Even if I don't take the hit, the force behind the hammer will still get me, Issei said as he charged with his trident and clashed with Ippon before kicking him in the chest, which impressed the demon as he slowly got up. Not bad. You do have some strength, but can you keep up? Ippon said as he charged towards Issei even faster until he slammed the hammer many times on Issei's body before Issei flew towards a broken building as coughed heavily due to the massive bruises he was feeling all over his body. D-damn. Issei grunted as he felt his body start to pass out before his eyes caught Ippon shaking his head in disappointment. Hey. And you think you can ask Lady Sidhi for her help when you are the one who needs it more than her? Leave and come back when you are stronger, Ippon said as he began to leave Issei in the crumbled building, making Issei clench his fists in anger as he realized that Ippon was right. I forgot that demons respect and fear those stronger than them, but I've only been sparring this whole time. I didn't defeat the chaos monster. That was Alice who did that, while I could hardly even beat some demons considered to be among the weakest of the demons. Issei's eyes glowed between emerald green and blood red as his chest. Specifically, the menorah started to resonate with his will. "I can't stop. Not now," Issei said in his mind as he began to pick himself up slowly, which made Ippon stop in his tracks. He turned back to see Issei struggling but trying to get back up. Ippon was surprised since he didn't expect the boy to be able to stand back up after slamming his hammer into the Demifiend's back multiple times. "Interesting, but it doesn't matter if you stand back up. You still not strong enough to even hurt me," Ippon said as he watched Issei's body stand back up before Ippon's eyes widened in shock as he looked at the boy's chest. "Wait a minute, is that a menorah?" Issei didn't reply as his body slowly moved towards Ippon, which shocked the demon as he saw Issei's body begin to heal. But what scared him more was the color of his eyes as they glowed brightly in rage. Blood-red eyes. Is this due to that menorah? Ippon asked himself before Issei's body moved at speeds above Ippon's own, which surprised him as he felt a massive amount of force hit his chest before he was blown away to an enormous cliff behind him, which left a sizable crater-sized hole in the middle of it before Ippon struggled to stand up. "Damn. Is this that same boy from before?" Ippon asked himself as he saw Issei's body continue to walk towards him. Still, before the demi-fiend could strike Ippon again, his eyes turned to normal as he collapsed on the ground. Much to Ippon's surprise, he slowly pulled himself out of the hole and walked towards the boy. "I see. The former demi-fiend is assisting him," Ippon said as he picked up Issei and placed him over his left shoulder before patting the boy's head. "I shall take you to her, boy. She can help you control your emotions so you don't become a real demon." Issei was groaning as he was now awake. But the scene was different since the area around him looked like he was in a parallel world but different from the demon world. The room looked more like the front yard of a haunted castle with its front gate down before a figure stood before the gate. The person was tall, with short blue hair like Nahobino and strange markings all over his body, similar to the tattoos Issei had on his own body. The person then looked at Issei's face for a moment before opening his mouth and speaking in a strange language that Issei could understand. "What is it you desire? Freedom? Power? Your humanity? What drives you to achieve your goals?" The demi-fiend asks as Issei ponders this question before replying almost immediately. "I desire power to regain my humanity and to protect the people I care about. Power is something that can be used to change the fate of others. That's why I seek power," Issei said as demi-fiend looked at him for a moment and nodded. "Very well. I shall gift you the power you seek," the demi-fiend said as he placed a hand on Issei's chest before Issei's eyes widened as he felt a vision enter his mind. The demi-fiend was standing before yelling as his body arced back while the ground began tearing apart until the enemies before him succumbed to a powerful blast of power. The demons all around the demi-fiend were killed by the attack before the crack in the ground slowly began to repair itself. Issei came back to see the demi-fiend looking at him passively before speaking. "You carry the menorah that has my essence. The power I have given you is the first of many abilities I acquired during my time in the demon world. The name of this power is Gia Rage. Use it wisely and be careful in your search for power because others who wished to regain their humanity have become a demon due to their ignorance and lack of understanding of this world," the demi-fiend said as he lightly pushed Issei off the floor. Issei didn't seem afraid that he was falling, which was weird for him until he spoke to the demi-fiend. "Thank you. I promise to end Lucifer and to not give in to my fiend side," Issei said as the demi-fiend watched him fall before he vanished into the darkness. "I wonder what happened to you to make you a demi-fiend," the demi-fiend said before leaving for his castle, which was the home for him and his demons. Issei gasped as he woke up on a hard surface to look and saw that Ippon was standing guard at the entrance of the cave before the demon blacksmith walked towards him with a tall demon lady that had glowing crimson-red eyes, long dark blonde hair that reminded Issei of the story of a princess with long hair, and a purple dress that revealed her heavenly bust. The demoness floated towards Issei's body, and once she got close enough to him, her hair moved as if it had a will of its own and grabbed his chin gently before it moved its head around for the demon to search him. Ippon didn't seem fazed by it, but it was odd for Issei until the hair let him go and returned to its owner. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Issei Hyodo. I was wondering when a new demi-fiend would emerge to our world. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Linen Sidhi. I am also known as the Spirit of Lust, from the local community of demons. Linen said as Issei was surprised to finally meet her before he got up and greeted the demon. "It's an honor to meet you, Lady Sidhi. Nahobino and I are trying to recruit more demons to help us deal with the Hydra at Tokyo Tower. If we don't do anything about it, then eventually the Hydra will come and kill all of the demons in this area. So will you help us fight?" Issei asked as Linen looked at Issei and asked with a passive expression. "Tell me. Why are you helping Nahobino? So I can return home. I still have a family I want to return to, and I'll be damned if I give up and don't try to return to them." Issei said as Linen was surprised that the boy still had a family before asking him another question. "Do you know who I am? You're Linen Sidhi. From what I learned about you from Dagda, you're known as a beautiful fairy of the fairies who take a human lover in both the Celtic and Irish folklore. You were portrayed as an exceptionally beautiful female who lives near tombs and cemeteries, and is always searching for male human lovers, especially widowers who visit the graves of their deceased wives. Dagda also said that the legends described you as a beautiful muse, who offers inspiration to an artist in exchange for fame and glory. However, this exchange frequently results in madness for the artist and often premature death even though they lead fulfilling lives." Issei explained as Linen replied as she nodded. "Correct. Ippon was in fact a great blacksmith back in his human life, which made him into this demon, but when I offered him a way to increase and sharpen his skills, he gladly accepted the pact, but the problem is that instead of becoming mad and insane, he instead offers his life force to me. So if you desire power, then would you offer your own life to me?" Linen asked as Issei looked at her and then at Ippon before shaking his head. "I refuse. I wish to get stronger by fighting with my demons," Issei said with unshaken conviction, making Linen look at him for a moment until she smiled. "I knew you were different from other demons," Linen said as she used her hair and tapped his chest before smiling at him. "I already know you plan on recruiting that stupid water spirit, but I'll admit that she is correct in some way about strength and numbers and how the weak can grow stronger, but that's the consequences of a demon who accepts my gift. That's why Asparas despises me, so I'll put up with that brat if you'll accept me," Linen said as Issei accepted her offer before the demoness was sent into his roster until Ippon chuckled at the boy. "Well, looks like you'll have me join your team as well, but know that I'm training you since you'll need it before taking on that," Ippon said as Issei nodded in reply before the blacksmith entered Issei's roster until he summoned the two back to see their changes. Ippon now wielded a much more giant hammer that required both hands to wield, while his metal head now had 2 eye holes and an opening for his mouth, as well as his apron was made to withstand powerful flames and even protected his body. Ippon was impressed by these changes before seeing that he could spew fire from his mouth that was extremely hot, while his hammer was much lighter and yet still strong enough to withstand powerful blows and create large craters on impact. Linen, on the other hand, now wore a long red dress instead that had purple lines along her back to the front. Her hair also had crimson highlights at the end of the tips, but what surprised Issei the most was that she had a resistance to fire magic and could make her hair ignite to use it like a whip. The demoness was impressed by these new changes before Issei was hugged into her bust, making Issei flattered to feel the warmth of a woman's bust until he was placed on her lap. "Now, just sit back and relax as we go to recruit that dumb water nymph," Linen said as Ippon couldn't help but chuckle at the boy for the situation he was now in before the trio headed to Apsaras' base. She was surprised to see Issei had returned with Linen Sidhi and Ippon. "Both of you have good goals and reasons for helping the demons, but you also need each other to help your teams. Asparas has many demons to follow her, but her army lacks strength, which is why Linen is perfect since she has other demons to follow her that have incredible strength to overcome the enemy. Both of you together would be an incredible force to be reckoned with, so why not work together?" Issei asked as he began to discuss the ways that if the two worked together, it would be more effective than fighting each other. The spirits of love and lust hated to admit this. Still, the boy raised some perfect points about their desires until the water nymph caved in and joined Issei's roster, which gave her a boost in healing magic, but also her water could now be scalding hot, while her ice magic also got a boost to assist her in battle. The other demons in Apsaras' clan wished to offer their services to help their goddess, which Asparas didn't mind, but they had to speak to Issei first, which was weird for Issei since he knew that many of these demons were too weak to even so much as lay a scratch on Hydra. "I'll call you when we're about to move out to the Hydra, but first, I need some serious training and another demon to recruit," Issei said as he explained to the two spirits about a demon who lived near the hot spring, shocking the two as they knew who he was talking about since they knew her very well. That's a bit of a problem. The hot spring is being guarded by a demon known as Pazuzu, who is working with some Azumi and keeping the mermaids at bay. With the hot spring being sealed off by Azumi and Pazuzu, we won't be able to enlist Anahida's help. But the worst part is that we must get across Tokyo Tower before getting to the hot spring. Aspara said as she knew the mermaids very well but lacked the strength to help them. Now that she was more potent and had more help, she was sure he could assist the mermaids and defeat Pazuzu. But before that, it's best you train with the three of us. I can help you learn skills that'll allow you to weaken your opponents, while Aspara's can help you build a stronger resistance to ice and heal your body after sparring with Ippon. Lenin said as Ippon slammed his hammer's head into his hand as he was looking forward to testing out his new powers. Issei was excited about this and readied himself for training, as were Apsaris's demons, much to his surprise. However, Lucifer had some tricks up his sleeve. Tokyo Tower. Lucifer appeared at the tower as he looked at his bed before the Hydra obediently bowed to its master before being petted on the head. My little Hydra, soon the new demi-fiend and the last of the Nahobino clan will come to kill you, but I decided to enlist some help for you, my boy. Lucifer said as he snapped his fingers before a girl appeared next to Lucifer. She had long white hair that was spiky at the end of the hair. At the same time, her neck and mouth were covered in some black substance that was hardened around those areas. But her right arm was replaced by tentacles that seemed to go with her white snow-like skin and amber eyes before the girl bowed to Lucifer. My master. I shall ensure that those who oppose you shall not prevail. The girl said as Lucifer smiled at the woman before him until the Hydra began to roar at the girl. She let out an aura that frightened the Hydra, which made it submit to the terrifying figure before it and comply that it shall work with her. Good boy. The girl said as she rubbed a hand on one of the many heads until Lucifer looked down at the girl and smiled at her. Stay safe, my daughter. You are the one who's next in line for my throne, so don't disappoint me. Lucifer said as the girl nodded and bowed to him. Of course, father. I, Chiaki Tachibana, daughter of Lucifer, shall not fail you. And if I do, I'll gladly accept death as my punishment. Chiaki said as Lucifer helped the girl up before an uncharacteristic smile appeared on his face as he gently rubbed the girl's head as if he was trying to push down the hair before Chiaki placed her cheek inside of his hand, which made Lucifer smile at the girl before he began to leave the tower. Goodbye, my daughter. Succeed or fail, you are still my child, and I will never forsake you. Lucifer said as he left the tower and couldn't help but feel sad but happy for his daughter. He sat back on his throne and sighed as he recalled the day he did something that Lucifer himself never thought he would have done. Save a human girl and tend to her as if she was his child. I wonder if this is what you felt like when you tended to my brothers and sisters' father, Lucifer said as he recalled the time he felt his father's warmth and love before he betrayed him due to his pride which led him to rule over the world of demons. Prepare yourself, Issei Hyodo, for my daughter isn't as merciful as I am. Scene. I hope you like and review this chapter. Also, let me know if you have any ideas for demons that Issei can recruit or what demi-fiend technique you want him to learn. The demi-fiend techniques will be given to Issei when he requires more power to clash with more powerful fiends such as Matador, the Riders, and the daughter of Lucifer, and yes, she'll be an excellent player to add to the story. The next update will be Might of the Magus. Here's a preview of the next chapter. Issei Hyodo. I can't teach you much about magic since your magic differs from mine due to yours relying on shadows and fighting like my brother Susano. However, I can teach you how to use some of my fire magic that'll benefit you, as well as lessons on how to lead an army. Amaterasu said as she pulled out a board and smiled at Issei. Which is why we're playing shogi and chess. I think it's time we add a new member to the team, but who should I choose? Issei pondered while looking at the remaining cards that were laid out before him. Yachiru and Kuno were out at the moment training with each other, so Artoria was in the room with him while also keeping Issei as a barrier between her and the annoying caster, as Medea kept trying to get the saber to wear some outfits. Which ones are left, master? Artoria asks as Issei looks at the cards and replies. Archer, Rider, Berserker, and Lancer. Issei said as he picked up the Lancer card to see two different beings appear in his mind. A tall red-haired man wielded a spear and a shield as he banged his shield with his spear. His men took to formation as they prepared for the assault. Thermopylae inomosha. What I call upon is a breath of stars, for I walk alongside the path of man. Therefore, child of man, let us bind the gods. Enuma Elish. A green-haired person said as many golden chains appeared and bound the being from moving as a golden-haired king stood next to him. Issei came back as he knew who to summon. Medea. Prepare a summoning circle. It's time to summon our Lancer. Issei said as Medea was taking pictures of Alter Artoria, who was wearing some attire that made her look like a model. Understood, master. Right after I finish documenting those photos. Medea said as she enjoyed the moment while Artoria swore she'd kill Castor one day. See you all next time. Ta-ta. Previous ch2 of 7 next. Chapter 3. The Demi-Fiend Meets a Goddess. Chapter 3. Beta. Old Man of the Mountain, Dark Lord 331 Issei was clashing with Ippon and his massive hammer, which helped him with his durability and how to withstand a large amount of force that almost sent him flying many times. Issei used his fists and magic to fight, and thanks to the weaker demons letting Issei absorb their essence, Issei was able to unlock some new skills in both his fire and force magic. Fire and force magic was easier for Issei since he could easily use his fire in the form of fireballs or a steady stream of fire from either his hands or mouth. He tried to shoot himself in the sky like he was flying but learned that force magic was more accessible for a task like that instead of fire magic. Wind was an exciting kind of magic for him to know since he was so used to the weaker spells he had learned from Nahobino's demons before Issei could learn more powerful versions of the attacks he learned from them before even making a few moves of his own. Wind Dracostrike. Issei yelled as he took a deep breath before firing a massive green dragon. Ippon smiled at the attack before blocking it as he could feel its power. Not bad. That all you got? Ippon asked as he was enjoying the kid's company and admired the boy's resolve to get stronger but could tell he was getting better every time they sparred again and again. Hey! You wish! Issei yelled as he held his left hand out and began to gather his dark magic. This is a spell I've been working on with Lenin for a while now. Let's see if it paid off. Issei said as he began to fire his spell at Ippon, who was covered in a massive amount of dark magic before Issei chanted the spell. Level 2. Ta-Rasu, Issei said as Ippon began to feel even weaker until he saw Issei charge at him head-on and raise his left fist before seeing his fist become enveloped in fire shocked the demon before he thought the fist connected to his face. Ippon skidded back as he felt the effects of the burn on his face before smirking at the boy. He. Excellent. You've improved, and your training with Lady Sidhi and Lady Asparas has paid off. I think it's time to head out. Ippon said as he put his hammer away, which made Issei smile before he thanked Ippon for his training. Asparas floated towards him before cradling his head in her hands. Don't worry. I'll be quick to heal you. Asparas said as she began to pour healing magic into his body which made Issei feel relief until Asparas also used some water magic to help Issei recover faster by making sure he didn't lose too much blood. Ippon is correct. After you absorbed some of the other demons, your magic has grown to the point where you can use medium spells while also creating a good amount of magic reserves within you due to your minimal amount of magic at first. Issei couldn't help but laugh nervously while he recalled the feeling when he saw that his magic was tiny. While he could use the weak rank spells easily, the medium took a lot out of him, which is why Asparas helped Issei expand his magic and create a reserve for some extra magic he may need in the future. I feel like I'm Sakura from Naruto trying to get stronger. Does this mean you're Tsunade? Issei asked before receiving a light snack on his head before Asparas replied. Do I look like some drunk woman who's a gambler with anger issues? Asparas said as Issei felt like he was in a dating game where the wrong choice leads to a bad end if he says the wrong thing. No, you do not, Issei replied before Asparas smiled and continued her healing session. Issei stood up and felt relieved, thanks to the healing magic. He then looked at the Tokyo Tower before pondering his next move until he nodded and looked back at Asparas. It's time we get going and find the mermaids, and we'll need their help to take on Hydra. Asparas didn't say anything but nodded as she agreed with him before she went back into the roster until Issei thought back on the past few days of him training with his new demons in his ledger. Issei then let out a whistle as a horse galloped towards Issei, but this wasn't any ordinary horse due to the horse having white hair, green horns, and red eyes. "Hey there, Catastros. Did I make you wait long?" Issei asked as the horse shook its head before the horse lowered itself for Issei to climb on its back. Issei did so and thanked the bicorn that he was able to take, since this bicorn was different from the others due to the demon being named Catastros, the untamed bicorn, but the resolve in its eyes made Issei want to try and tame the beast. Unfortunately, after 100 failed attempts to ride and fight the beast, Issei eventually passed out from exhaustion, but what happened next surprised him. Catastros walked towards his body and sniffed his head before nudging his left arm. Issei was surprised by this side of the bicorn until he made a pact with the bicorn and was able to summon it, but when it was called, it looked like a regular black horse with a strange mask on its head but without the horns and red eyes. The bicorn was named Catastros for being a solid and robust horse before it became a bicorn when it passed away in battle next to its former master. Issei's resolve to tame him and his kindness reminded the bicorn of its former master, allowing Issei to make a pact. "Hey. Thanks, Catastros." Issei said thanks as he rode towards the Tokyo Tower, but also recalled his conversation with Naho the last time they spoke after he recruited both Lean and Sidhi and Asparas. Flashback. "So they're part of your roster now?" Nahobino asked as Issei and her met at a meeting place. She was sitting in a busted-up car but was comfortable enough to relax while Issei was getting some drinks from a nearby vending machine. "Yep. Both of them are good friends that do argue from time to time, but they can work together when the time is right," Issei said as he got the drinks and walked over to Nahobino before handing her the drink, which she accepted before seeing Issei fiddle with his own. "Is there something wrong with the drink?" Nahobino asked before Issei, then asked Nahobino a simple question. "Have you always gone by Nahobino? Didn't you don't have a name? Didn't some of the others go by names?" Issei asked as the Nahobino pondered her reply before speaking to him. "While it's true that others did wish to go by another name when they regained a small part of their previous life, I did not. When I became a Nahobino, I lost most of my memories of being human, so I'm not sure who or what I was in the past," she said before Issei looked at her blank facial expression like a clean slate, leading to a name popping into his head. "Naho. Naho Tasuki. Mind if I call you that?" Issei asked as the girl looked at Issei, surprised by the name, before shrugging her shoulders. "If that helps our relationship, then that's fine. Ha. Ha." Naho said with a dead tone, making Issei worried about her until she looked at Issei confused. "Was that joke not funny?" Issei hugged Naho gently. "Why would I joke about giving you an actual name? Man, you don't know how to be human again. That worries me greatly." Naho raised a brow, unsure what to do in this situation, until Issei looked into her eyes and continued. "I'll make it my mission to help you be more human. So why don't we start over? Name's Issei Hyodo. A demi-human and the partner of Dagda. And you are?" Issei asked as Naho looked at the hand before shaking it and replying in a slightly lighter tone. "Naho Tasuki. Pleased to meet you," the newly named Naho said before they began to talk about the hot springs. "To fight Pazuzu, you must learn to use lightning spells. They aren't easy to use since most of the spells are very dangerous and can harm only demons who are weak to those kinds of spells. Do you happen to know any from absorbing other demons?" Naho asked as Issei pondered this and replied. "Mostly the Zio and Mazio, thanks to the demons I've absorbed into my body. I've gotten a slightly stronger resistance to lightning. Still, thanks to Asparas, I've gotten much better going up against ice magic due to having her freeze my body so I can develop a better resistance against it." Issei explained as he was also talking about the Dracostrike spells he's been forming, which impressed Naho, and when Issei told her about him meeting a male counterpart of her and the spell he gave him known as Gia Rage. "Issei. That was the original demi-fiend you met, and if what you're telling me is true, then you will be able to unlock many other abilities that he could use in some of the Nahobino," Naho said as Issei was amazed by this before Naho took him to an open area. Issei was sure what she would teach him when he saw Naho summon her blade. "Issei. It's time I show you the more physical abilities that we, as Nahobino, can use. You've become stronger in combat through magic and weapons, but it's time you learn how to fight with that power within you," Naho said as she charged at Issei, ready to push Issei to learn the techniques she wished to show him. End flashback. Issei continued to ride on Catastros until the duo stopped as they looked at the Tokyo Tower but didn't see the Hydra. But Issei had a feeling that the Hydra was hidden from sight by an illusion. He looked at the map and saw that the spring he had to go to was across the path of the Tokyo Tower. Catastros. I'll go on my own this time. Thanks for the ride, but I don't want you to get hurt. Plus, it's easier to sneak by with one rather than two. Issei said as Catastros wanted to refuse the request but could understand its master's wishes and went back into the roster. Issei was grateful before he went down the path and stayed hidden, thanks to the rocks and shadows scattered in the area until he saw the Hydra resting underneath the tower. Issei was shocked as he observed its size and shape, utterly different from the stories he had read about in Greek mythology. Issei was starting to move again to get past the Hydra until he looked to see a pale female figure standing right in front of him. The female figure smiled at him before punching him with a sickening right hook that sent Issei into the sand. She followed with a whistle as the Hydra woke up to see its partner before hissing at Issei, which worried him greatly until the female picked him up. He was forced to look at the woman's eyes before she threw him a bit far away from the Hydra until Issei grunted as he got up but amazed at the woman's strength. Who are you, and why isn't the Hydra attacking you? Are you a servant of Lucifer? Issei asked as the woman smiled at him and replied. Well, since I know who you are, it's only fair that I introduce myself. Chiaki Tachibana. The daughter of Lucifer, and I'm well aware of your power. I am willing to offer you a chance to take up my father's offer to join his army, but I already know you'll refuse my offer, so I'll gladly take your life. Chiaki said as she unleashed her aura, which terrified Issei so much that his body froze in fear. What the heck is she? Does Lucifer have a child? How in the world is she this strong? Issei asked himself as Chiaki was getting nearer the demi-fiend while showing her disappointment. You could have become part of a beautiful world my father was building. A world where the strong thrive and the beauty is preserved. You like my former friend. I offered him a chance to work with me in the world I wished to make with my father, but he also rejected my offer. For you see, those who are useless and weak do not deserve to live and would be purged from this society. Only strong people may rule, and power is acknowledged as the only thing of value. The weak will forever serve the strong. My reason was to be safe from ever becoming weak or lower class. While some may call it paranoia and fear, in which I would always have to look over my shoulder and fear being overthrown, my father Lucifer, on the other hand, saw that I wasn't weak and gave me the power to join his side. Chiaki monologued as she moved towards Issei before drawing out a sword. Issei kept trying to escape the girl, but his body wouldn't respond to his mind yelling at him to run. Chiaki was getting closer to Issei, and just as she was about to cut him down, a voice stopped her. I don't think so, devil spawn. The yell caught Chiaki off guard. She didn't expect to see a volley of arrows pierce her body, which made her let out a scream as she was slammed into by a massive demon that looked similar to that of a spider but had some strange parts of his body that reminded Issei of a demonic spider that he read about until he looked to see his savior now that the aura of death was gone to see a woman that reminded him of a goddess. She had short blonde hair, forest green eyes, blue and silver armor, a cape, and a crossbow on her wrist. She was also standing on top of one of the demon spiders before she put 2 fingers in her mouth and whistled. Grab the demi-fiend and roll out. The woman shouted as one of the demonic spiders nested. Issei grabbed him carefully before getting him out of the area while Chiaki groaned from the arrows until he stopped the Hydra. No, let them go. Chiaki said as she smirked at the retreating form of Artemis before patting the Hydra's many heads as she walked back towards the tower. This means we can call in a special friend to care for that goddess. After all, in this world, she isn't as strong as the legends make her out to be. Elsewhere, you'll be fine, demi-fiend. You're lucky we found you at the tower before that woman almost killed you. Artemis said as she watched Issei get healed up by Angel before thanking the Tsuchigumo that saved him until Artemis began to explain who she was and why she was at Tokyo Tower. I was asked by my father to help me eliminate the Hydra. I've been trying to kill that monster, but my arrows can only do so much to it, and my ice attacks do some damage, but its fire attacks nearly killed me many times. Now because that girl is there with the Hydra, that'll complicate things due to that girl being Lucifer's daughter. As Issei was surprised by this, Artemis said, asking how that girl was Lucifer's daughter before the goddess replied. Your guess is as good as mine. I hardly know much about Chiaki, but I do know she used to be a human before being reborn by Lucifer. Either way, I'm glad to have gotten you out of there, but I have to ask, what brought you here anyway? Artemis asks as Issei explains his reasons to the goddess, which amazes her since she is surprised that the demi-fiend wanted to help the mermaids. Well, if you want to help the mermaids, I can take you to them. The Tsuchigumo clan are allies of mine. They've assisted me on many hunts, so when I asked them to help me deal with the Hydra, they accepted it, but we've been losing others in our battle due to the Hydra's poison and fire. Artemis said as she looked at the tower and could still hear the Hydra's roars, which meant death was coming for them all. Issei was surprised by this before he clenched his fists after seeing the Tsuchigumo clan's injuries before one of them approached Issei and bowed to him. It's an honor to meet the new demi-fiend that walks among us demons. I am the leader of the Tsuchigumo clan. Joro. I was given this name by my father, the former leader of our clan, before he passed away due to the Hydra. Due to his loss, the others have begun to lose hope of stopping the Hydra, but we lack the power and numbers to destroy it. Joro said as Issei looked at the remaining clan members and saw only about 10 to 15 line members left. I'm sorry for your losses, but maybe I can help. My friend Naho and I are gathering demons to defeat the Hydra. If you help us, you'll avenge your fallen brethren and save many more lives. Issei said as Joro pondered the proposal before Artemis stepped on him. Hold on. What makes you think you have the plan to defeat the Hydra? Artemis asked as she was surprised by the boy's audaciousness before he held up his left hand and revealed the demons he had within him. Artemis was surprised by the demons since they appeared stronger than regular demons before noticing the changes in their appearances. She then looked at the boy and could tell he wasn't any ordinary demon. She then decided to see what the boy was made of before joining him. We won't help you unless you prove to us your strength. Do you say you wish to help the mermaids and lift the curse off the spring? If you wish to do so, then take Joro and do so. If your plan is successful, I, Artemis, shall join you in your quest to defeat the Hydra and join your team. Artemis said as she outstretched a hand before Issei shook it as he wanted to prove to the goddess that he could take Pazuzu down and save the mermaids. Joro then let Issei climb onto his back before the two began to head out to the spring. Artemis watched the duo leave as she pondered over the words that her father had said to her before meeting the Tsuchigumo. You want me to try and locate the demi-fiend? But that's impossible. The demi-fiend hasn't been around since Lucifer killed him during the final battle. Artemis said as her father, Zeus, nodded on his throne before replying to his daughter. That is true. However, this demi-fiend is different from the previous one since it seems an old friend had chosen someone to be the new demi-fiend. Zeus said as he saw Artemis's shocked expression before Zeus continued speaking to her. I believe in my foresight and that this demi-fiend will be able to help us deal with Lucifer and his forces. However, I need you to locate him and assist his team in dealing with the Hydra. Artemis ponders what her father plans before nodding and standing as she heads out to locate the Hydra and the demi-fiend. I do hope you can help us, Issei Hyodo. Lucifer's reign has lasted too long, and many demons have been killed or tortured because of him. Artemis said as she recalled some of her siblings and friends she made over the years died from the army of Lucifer and the overwhelming power that even made Zeus fear the devil himself. Artemis then looked at the tower before narrowing her eyes, loading up an arrow made of ice, and firing at it. Still, as it flew, Chiaki sliced it in half before it hit the Hydra, making Artemis click her tongue in annoyance at the girl's power. This'll be more troublesome than I thought. Issei and Joro were heading to the lake where the mermaids were supposed to be located until they saw a mermaid trying to swim away from a couple of floating fish-like demons, which made Issei wonder what they were until Dagda answered him. They are the Azumi, sometimes referred to as Azumi no Isora. They are an ancient tribe of water gods from Japan who excelled in fishing and are well versed in the way of water. It is said they are the descendants of Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo, the three gods sired by Izanagi after he returned from Yomi, the land of the dead. The deity Azumi is said to be a guardian of the people after which it is named and can control the element of water similarly to its sibling deity, Isora. They are very territorial when others approach their lakes, so they are neutral types of demons who won't fight unless they have to. The demon Pazuzu probably hired them to kidnap the mermaids. Dagda said as Issei and Joro headed towards the swarm of Azumi, who stopped chasing the mermaid to see the duo approach them. Attack them. Bring me their heads, the leader Azumi said as the others floated towards the duo, which made Issei narrow his eyes at them before he summoned his trident from demon. Before he put so much power into his legs and arms, Issei jumped from Joro's back and began to slice the Azumi, who cried as they tried to hit Issei. He was moving too fast for the fish-like demons to catch him. Joro! If you don't want to get hurt, then get clear! Issei shouted as Joro saw the wind begin to pick up until the spider-like demon scattered away from Issei before the Azumi was picked up and trapped in a massive tornado. Issei smiled at this as he leapt into the air and resighted himself. Here we go. Issei mumbled as he did the signs that Naho showed him earlier when he was learning the technique until he poured all of his power into the trident, making it appear even more extensive than it was before until Issei shouted. Wrath! Issei began as he hefted the trident above his head before narrowing his eyes at the Azumi and throwing it at them. Tempest! The trident struck the enemy as the winds and tornado ceased. The leader Azumi stared at his fallen brothers in shock before the essence of his comrades was sent into Issei as he felt his power grow and gain a new ability. Issei recalled the trident as he spun it a few times before glaring at the leader Azumi and aiming it at him. If you don't want to die, then I suggest you answer my questions and leave the mermaid alone, Issei said as he glared at the Azumi, who nodded in fear before bowing to Issei, which surprised Joro as he came out of the hiding spot he was in with the mermaid looking at Issei in awe for a moment until it swam over towards him. Issei and Joro looked at the mermaid before being surprised by her appearance because she was very different from the other mermaids in the demon world. She was a beautiful woman with the look of a typical mermaid with a human top and fishtail, but she had rare green hair and pointy ears, along with aqua-colored eyes that said that the mermaid was a timid girl who wasn't used to being around many people. Thank you for saving me, Mr. Demi-Fiend. My name is Lilidifa Vepar, and I'm a devil brought here by Pazuzu. The mermaid, now known as Lilidifa, said that Issei was surprised that someone was from his world and forcibly brought here. Hold on. If you're from my world, then why were you brought here? Did Pazuzu forcibly bring you here? Issei asked as Lilidifa looked down and shook her head before explaining her situation to Issei. No, Pazuzu told me my coming here was part of my deal with him. My household fell into economic bankruptcy due to the conflict between the three biblical factions during the Great War and the internal power struggle of the old Mao faction and the new Mao faction, forcing me to move to the human world as I couldn't maintain my household and to escape the conflict and live in solitude as I took residence on a beach in the human world within the territory of the House of Furnius. They were kind and let me stay there, but I couldn't make money and could barely do anything myself. Lilidifa explained as she looked at her new form before sighing to herself for the deal she had made with Pazuzu. My depression hurt me so much that I decided to make a deal with a demon named Pazuzu, and he said he would give me a chance to live in a new world where I wouldn't have to be on the run or scrounge around to get some money. I was desperate and accepted the deal. But when I made a deal with Pazuzu, it was the biggest mistake ever since he brought me here and made me into a permanent mermaid so Pazuzu could make me his servant. However, I escaped him but lost my friends captured by the Azumi. Lilidifa cried out as she recalled the many mermaids captured by Pazuzu's army until she felt a hand on her head. Issei looked into her eyes and replied. Don't worry, Lilidifa. We plan on saving your friends and ensuring Pazuzu pays for what he did to the other mermaids and you. If you'd like, you can help us get revenge on him and become even stronger than you were before. Issei said as Lilidifa couldn't help but feel his voice's warmth and caring tone despite his facial expressions showing that he wasn't interested in helping her at all. Lilidifa then took the hand and nodded as she replied to him. Yes. I accept the opportunity. I'll do all I can to help, but besides teleportation and flight, not very much. Issei still accepted her and welcomed her as part of the team. So when she reappeared after receiving the contract, Lilidifa had red tints at the end of her hair, and her eyes had a new glow about them. Not only that, but her power was different now. Lilidifa held out a hand and summoned ice, which shocked her since she couldn't use some of the mermaid's ice magic. Still, the contract allowed the former devil mermaid to become a demonic one instead, which allowed her to use now the infamous move of the mermaids, Stormcaller's song. Issei also kept the leader Azumi, who was attacking her, interrogating him into explaining Pazuzu's reasons for kidnapping the mermaids. He wanted the mermaids to deal with the Hydra should it come near the spring. He promised my people and me that we would be able to be semi-immortal since the spring heals all that is within or near the water. The spring was the home of the mermaids. Still, when Pazuzu came, he planned to use the spring's powers to keep them semi-immortal to lure the Hydra near the spring so the mermaids could use their ice powers to defeat the Hydra. In contrast, he would use his power to ensure the poison breath wouldn't hit them, but the mermaids refused since they didn't wish to fight the Hydra and continue swimming in their home. The Azumi explained as Issei narrowed his eyes at the Azumi before asking. So they didn't want to disturb the Hydra even though they could fight the Hydra? Correct, but the mermaids aren't exactly able to do much on land, but in the water, their true power shines with their ice powers. That's why Pazuzu went to find them. However, he believed they were being selfish and keeping the water healing power to themselves, which is why he waged war against them. The Azumi said before Issei pondered as he recalled the legends about Pazuzu. A demon from Sumerian civilization, he governs the southwestern wind. He had the face of a lion, a human's body, a bird's wings, an eagle's talons, a scorpion's tail, and a curved horn protruding from his forehead. It is said that the wind he blew from the Persian Gulf spread disease throughout the land. In comparison, he could be invoked against various demons and his most frequent enemy, Lamashtu. She was believed to cause harm to mothers and children, especially newborns. While Pazuzu was regarded as benevolent towards humans despite his demonic nature, Lamashtu was his opposite. She was imagined as a disgraced goddess cast down from heaven because of her homicidal tendencies and cursed with a demonic form by Enlil. I'm unsure if he's a trustworthy demon, but we'll have to see when we confront him. Issei pondered before looking at the Azumi. I'll take you with me, but on one condition: if you betray us, then you die. Is that clear, Azumi? Issei said as the fish demon nodded in reply. Yes, I understand. I swear on my name that I won't betray you. You've shown me mercy, so I'll never betray you. Azumi said as Issei nodded as he held a hand out and made a contract with the demon, which allowed the Azumi to have some red scales and a unique ability to shoot scalding and burning hot water at his enemies. Can you take us to Pazuzu? It's the only way to remove the curse he placed on this spring. Issei said as he looked at Azumi and asked. Hey! I've been meaning to ask you something. Do demons of the same species have different names, or do you all go by the same name? Unfortunately, not many of us have names given our ability to evolve into other demons or fuse into other ones. Sometimes we don't have names, but only a few do. Azumi said as Issei nodded before pondering about the names. In that case, how about I give you a name? It's only fair since it'll keep you separated from the others. How about Anzu? Issei asked as the newly named Anzu nodded in reply as he didn't mind the new name. Joro and Lalidifa smiled at their partner, who may sound emotionless, but they could tell that his actions were kind since he could see through the demon and treat them as comrades and friends. Anzu was happy to be on the team since he led them to the spring location, where Issei saw Pazuzu and signaled for the others to wait as he listened in on Pazuzu speaking to someone. I know the mermaid that got away is the one I brought, but I thought she would have been even stronger than the other mermaids. I know she's a good kid, so I told them not to harm her, but I haven't heard back. Maybe we should find the Nahobino and the Demi-Fiend and see if we can collaborate with them? Pazuzu said as he spoke to a water orb floating in front of him but glowing as he was scolded by it before the demon sighed and nodded. Okay. I'll make sure that the others don't know. Pazuzu said as the orb went away, which made the demon sigh in relief before Issei told his teammates to hold on as he made his appearance. Why hello there. Issei called out as Pazuzu turned around in fear as he saw the demi-fiend himself walking towards the demon. You're Pazuzu, correct? The one in charge of the spring? If so, then I'd like to propose your services. Issei said as Pazuzu was surprised by this before having an idea. Oh really? What did you have in mind? Pazuzu asked as Issei stopped walking and smiled at the demon. I want you to join me in dealing with the Hydra. I've heard that you could use the powers of the spring to make yourself almost immortal, and I believe with your intelligence, the mermaids, and being spring, we can deal with the Hydra and end its reign of terror across the city. Issei said as Pazuzu felt flattered that his intelligence was being seen instead of that woman who bossed him around. But of course, I'd be honored to serve you, Hyodo-sama. Pazuzu said with a bow as Issei smiled and held a hand out for the demon, which Pazuzu shook before his hand started to feel cold. Excellent. And do you mind telling me about your other partner in this little operation? Issei asked as Pazuzu looked down to see his hand frozen until Issei let the ice cover up the rest of the body except the demon's head. Now I'm going to ask again. Who's your partner? Are they in the lake? Pazuzu was frightened by this before Issei headed towards the lake and saw that the mermaids were kept in water like prison before Issei held a hand out and whispered. Mudo. The dark energy headed toward the mermaids until it was dispelled by someone else. Issei stood back as the water began to move, and many water droplets came into the air until they began to take the shape of a figure. Issei merely observed as he saw Anahida's complete form appear. She looked at Issei with a knowing smile before speaking to him. You knew full well that I was part of it, didn't you? Not at first, but seeing Pazuzu speaking to a ball of glowing water and the fact that you are a spirit of water makes sense that you would know of the Hydra. Especially Asparas. You were there when I recruited her, didn't you? Issei asked as Anahida's eyes narrowed at Issei before nodding. How? Asparas and Nahobino. They told me you could travel in water, so when Asparas said to me that you two argued about each other's ideals and ways to deal with the Hydra, noted to me that you wanted Asparas to see her flaws in her ideals, which is why you asked Pazuzu to be the scapegoat. So the blame would be on him as he gathered up the Azumi, and Nahobino heard about Pazuzu and automatically targeted him, leaving you alone with the mermaids in the water so your healing magic can bless them. Issei said as Anahita narrowed her eyes. She began to slowly form the water from the spring around her body before starting it into ice. A Zoroastrian goddess whose name means pure. While primarily known as a beautiful deity who rules over rivers and water, she is also the goddess of health, fertility, safe delivery, livestock production, harvest, wealth, and land expansion. She is often portrayed as an elegant virgin wearing a crown decorated with numerous stars, a golden necklace, and a golden cape, and is typically shown holding a water jug. She is also a brave god of war astride a four-wheeled chariot, toppling demons and tyrants alike. Both her allies and her enemies have been said to have offered their prayers to her. Issei said as he recalled her stories until seeing her ready herself for battle. Joro. Issei shouted as Anahita felt a bolt of lightning hit her body, disrupting her attack, as she then looked to see Joro was behind the spring. Before Anahita would fire her holy magic at Joro, Anzu flew out of the water and began to use scratch dance on the goddess, making her yell in pain as she used her holy magic and blasted him into the water. Is this the best you have? Is a couple of wannabe demons fighting me? You do know I can heal myself, right? Anahita asked as she used the spring water to heal herself until the water was blown away by the wind, which surprised her until she saw Pazuzu freed from his ice prison. He glared at Anahita before flying towards her. I'm not letting you win, Anahita. Pazuzu yelled as he wrestled with the goddess, who was annoyed at the demon for interfering with her plans until she pushed him away and used the water to trap him, causing Pazuzu to suffer from the lack of air. Let's see you blow your way out of this, Anahita said as she began to pour holy magic into the sphere. She saw Pazuzu's fear on his face. Now die, traitor. Ham on. Anahita said as Pazuzu yelled in pain, which dissipated the water prison. Still, the demon wasn't done as Lilitifa caught him as took him towards the water, which made Anahita hiss in rage as she was about to attack the mermaid-turned-demon until she felt many eyes on her. Now! Issei yelled as he summoned some of his other demons to attack her, which led to Anzu, Alice, Angel, Nekomata, and Ippon striking her with heavy and deadly physical attacks until Anahita tried to heal herself but was interrupted by Lin and Sidhi as she used her dark magic to disable the healing move. Fireball! Demon shouted as he fired his fireballs at Anahita before Pixie came in. Zio! Pixie shouted as she fired her lightning spell at the goddess until Joro used his Mazio to strike Anahita. It was causing her to feel overwhelmed by the many attacks until she saw Issei summon a fire spell. Fire Dracostrike! Issei shouted as the fire dragon flew at Anahita and burned her so much that the mermaids were freed from prison. Anahita fell and, surprisingly, landed in Issei's arms as the demi-fiend thanked Catastros for his assistance. It's over, Anahita. You've lost. Issei said as Anahita passed out in his arms before Lilitifa called him to see that Pazuzu was struggling to stay alive until Angel began to heal him, which made him smile as he thanked the angel before looking at Issei. So, is that job offer still open? Pazuzu asked as Issei smirked in reply as he felt this would work out with them. Time skip. 23 days in the demon world. 24 hours in Kuo town. I thank you for accepting our deal, Titania. Issei has informed me that he's been doing well for the past few days. I'm sure you'll be very impressed," Naho said as Titania was floating next to the Nahobino, curious about Issei's abilities and how strong he had become until the two met the demi-fiend in the spring next to Lilitifa, who was still shy but more confident in her abilities and battle skills until the two turned around to see Titania and Naho approach the two of them. "Naho. Titania. I'm glad you two are well," Issei said as Naho nodded in his direction until Titania was in awe of his stature, showing that he'd been training like crazy since he left the small city until Artemis appeared next to them with Joro. "We're here to help as well. Hope you don't mind, Naho," Artemis said as Naho pulled Issei in her direction and glared at Artemis. "Only Issei calls me Naho, so stay away from him," Naho threatened as Artemis clicked her tongue in annoyance at Naho before standing down as she saw Issei shake his head her way. "Very well then. I'm sure Issei's explained to you that we're ready?" "Yes. And I assume you have the plan to deal with the Hydra and Chikaki?" Naho asked as Artemis narrowed her eyes and nodded her way. "Yes. We'll have Issei and his army take care of the Hydra while you take care of Chikaki," Artemis said as Issei nodded as he summoned Anahita, draped all around Issei's arms with her hair with tints of emerald green and some crimson red, making Artemis's left eye twitch more as she saw the mocking face on the goddess's face. "Indeed. I'll be assisting by healing Issei's body when he's injured, as well as the others," Anahita said as her hands felt his chest before moaning while feeling his developing muscles. Issei didn't stop this until he grabbed her hand as it neared his crotch. "Enough, Anahita, or I'll ensure I burn you again," Issei said as Anahita moaned in excitement as she loved that side of Issei when he was being serious about either battle, training, or planning. "Of course Hyodo-sama," Anahita said as she purred in joy while Naho felt a green feeling in her chest. Artemis glared hatefully at the goddess before Titania stifled her laugh as she could tell the two were rivals over Issei's attention. "Ah. To be young and in love all over again," Titania said as she then saw Issei look towards her and ask, "Are you sure you are up for this, Titania? We don't have to form a contract," Issei said as Titania wrapped him in a hug before smiling at him. "Thank you for your concern, but it's fine. I'd be honored to serve and help as much as I can. Especially since I'm hoping I get resistance to fire since I'll be helping Naho and Artemis deal with Chiaki while you fight the Hydra," Titania said as Issei chuckled in reply before he forged a contract with her that made Titania much more substantial. Naho and Issei looked at each other before they nodded as they prepared for the battle. The Battle of Tokyo Tower. Chikaki smiled as she could see them from the tower before sitting on the Hydra's many heads and making a come-hither gesture. "Let's have some fun. I can't wait to see what kind of demi-fiend this Issei Hyodo is," Chikaki said as she prepared to face her newest challengers. The curtain falls as the final act takes the stage of the battle. Artemis from the DLC and Anahita are at the party along with Pazuzu. The final battle is coming, so be prepared for 2 fights and death necessary for Issei's development and knowing the dangers of being a demi-fiend. Cue intro music. Howling. Are you satisfied? Just open your eyes. You can see the light across this new borderline Issei as shown with Naho as they stand in the background while facing the Hydra. They see Chikaki smile as she gets ready to fight them. But behind Issei and Naho are their demons prepared to fight with them against the enemy while Lucifer's shadow is behind Chikaki. Once we've finished lamenting our defeats, our emotions keep struggling on. Rainier strolls down an alley as she then collapses on the ground, and works as she feels her back as if a part of her is missing. She looks at her ring fingers that slowly healed the pain she was feeling before looking up to see Issei was in front of her and held out a hand for her. The fallen was in shock at this before she pulled herself together. She then called out to him to help her until his image disappeared, which made Rainier gasp as the fallen cried while the rain covered her body to show that she was in pain in more ways than one. A distant light pulses through the dark of night, the howling of those who believe. Sona looks out the window as she types on the computer before sighing at possibly telling the Hyodo about the death while Rias berates herself for being a fool for not saving Issei. "Hey! Get low! Hey! Howl aloud! Take action now!" Riser and his team appear as they prepare for battle. "Hey! You're going to be somebody!" in a departure to the blue skies. Dagda appears next to Issei as he helps the boy prepare for training until the original demi-fiend appears and holds a book out for Issei. The few dreams we have left go higher. Only then will we lose our fire? There's no way we'd listen to the liars. Having fun all the while, yeah. Rias ran forward as she clashed with Ravel with her magic. Eubeluna fought with Akano as the two traded blows with each other, while Kiba clashed with the Knights of the Phoenix, and as for Kaneko, she has her Neko form while fighting the Rooks. From the time we're born until we die out. The higher the wall, the more the desire. In our open hearts is a messiah. Naho and Aika chat while Issei waves at them as he approaches them and prepares to head to the demon world for more training and recruiting demons. I want to keep hold of the changing times. I am never giving up, yeah. We'll overcome the nights that kept us trapped. I'm loudly howling out my soul. Issei and Naho are in Lucifer's throne room. As they rush towards him, Lucifer smiles at the two as Chiaki, Hydra, Matador, the Four Horsemen, Daisoju, Hell Biker, and Trumpeter run towards their enemy while their eyes are burning in excitement at fighting the Nahobino and Demi-Fiend. Issei and Naho clash with the demons until the two rush towards Lucifer as they prepare their final attack and strike Lucifer as the screen turns white. The Godslayer's Demi-Fiend. Arc 1. The Demi-Fiend rises again. See you all next time. Leave a review, like, or hate if you enjoy this story. And, as always, have some options for possible demons you want Issei to see. Next update. Wildcard Ashikabi. Lets me know if you have any Sekirei in mind for Issei as he prepares to locate and save the forest Sekirei. Ta-ta. First, previous ch3 of 7 next.